So John, as you're, you mentioned your wife is involved with you and you guys really kind of tag team this. Tell me what your day-to-day life is like in session and then out of session, and give us kind of that picture.
Yeah, great. Well, we usually get into the office about 7, and I'm off running because during session we have a lot of regular constituent types of affairs that we do. For example, every other week we will have a video conference call-in with Central Oregon, and it's with Central Oregon cities, and so Madras and Prineville and Bend and Sisters, all those communities, the mayors and city managers and some of the councilors, city planners will gather in their respective committee hearing rooms, and we're all linked together video conference, and we'll do that for an hour and give them an answer of how things are going in the legislature for the prior 2 weeks since we had talked to them. And a lot of these communities or regions, like in Central Oregon with, it's called COCO, or Central Oregon Cities, they will have legislative agendas to move their economic development forward or planning issues that they have. And any number of we Central Oregon legislators may carry a bill or draft a bill and then carry the bill through the process for whatever the need is. So video conferencing, and then typically at 8 or 8:30 I rush off to a committee hearing, and I'm involved in the House Education Committee. There's a joint House and Senate Audits and IT Committee, and I'm co-chair of a Ways and Means Subcommittee on Transportation and Economic Development. And so my day is filled with meetings. Typically from 10 a.m. to 11:30 or so, we have floor session, we call it, and we go to our desk on the House floor, and we start with the Pledge of Allegiance and opening ceremonies, and then we vote on a number of bills, however many we have for that day, and then we adjourn, and I usually head back to my office and have 3 or 4 15 to 20-minute meetings with constituents or lobby or whoever came by the Capitol that wants to meet with me that day. And then by 12:30, 1 o'clock, I'm heading off to more committee meetings. And so it's a dead run all day long. Literally, my lunch, typical lunch, and this is serious, one of those little string cheese sticks and an apple. And I'm eating that going down the hallway as I'm talking to somebody off to my next meeting. So it's a hectic schedule for 6 months.
It sounds very exhausting.
It is.
Do you enjoy that, though? That hectic, fast-paced, meeting? Do you like that?
I
or
do.
Are you glad when the 6 months is done?
You know, I do, as long as I feel I'm outcome-based. And so if I get to the end of the day and I don't really feel like I accomplished a lot, sometimes you self-analyze and go, well, what could I have done different? Because I'm here in Salem to affect positive change for my constituents, for my district, and for the state as a whole. So what did I do today to really move that ball down the field? Mm-hmm. Some days I feel really good about it, and other days not so much. And it's interesting, there's a lot of delayed gratification in this job too, that now that I've been in it about 4 years, I'm finding that out. Especially during this past session, 2 things that I've been working on for 3 or 4 years, we actually got through, and that's a real feeling of gratification, but it's sobering because it soaks in. You go, okay, you have to put one step in front of the other every day and really look out in the distance and go, okay, I really am accomplishing something. I may not accomplish something today. As a business person, right, you start looking on a day-to-day basis, and you've got benchmarks and you want to accomplish things. Otherwise, tomorrow you're going to be way behind. This is a different aspect to the job. You have to really always be looking out into the distance at what you want to accomplish.
Do you feel like you had a good idea of how that was before going into it, or when you got into it, was it sort of like, oh, this is how this works?
Baptism by fire.
Yeah.
When the final part of being appointed to the job was this day out at Cousins, and I'm in a room, and a number of the county judges and county commissioners are in the room, and then a lot of them are hooked up via the phone. And once they made the decision and said, well, John, you're our new state representative, I said, great, now what? Because they're really, when you're appointed midterm like that, there's not really a manual, there's not a school that you go to teach you how to be a state representative. And so I said, well, the one thing, and I literally did, I told the judges and commissioners that day, I said, well, the one thing I do know how to do is build relationships. And my impression of this job is anything that I'm going to accomplish for District 59 is going to be done through relationships. That I can do. I've already got a lot of relationships in the district. Now I'm going to set about building those relationships in Salem. And I'm glad I had that notion coming into the job, because really that is what it's all about. And I've encouraged a lot of new representatives coming in over the last several years. Focus on building those relationships, because that's where you're going to get stuff done for your constituents.
So a state representative and then a congressman, what's the biggest difference there for if you were to define one versus the other?
Congressman would be state representative on steroids. I do my work at the state level in Salem. Greg Walden, who is our congressman, does the same type of work, only in Washington, D.C., for the state as a whole.
Okay.
So he represents our congressional district, all of eastern and southern Oregon. It's a massive congressional district. So he does the same type of stuff, same type of constituent work, and he works on committees and goes to hearings all day. And but it's just done at the entire state level, and it's done back in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So when I go back into my district, District 59, it's a 2-hour drive from Salem. His is a little tougher.
A little more.
And, he makes that trip virtually every weekend back into Oregon. And it's crazy because I know in 2009 during the session he called and said, hey John, I'm going to be in John Day Saturday for a town hall. Would you like to join me? And I'm like, Salem to John Day, that's a hike. I said, sure, I'll be out there. And we do a lot of joint town halls together in the district. And so I met with him out in John Day for the town hall that day. And I'm sitting there not feeling sorry for myself, because I'm thinking, I drove about 6 hours. He flew 6 hours plus the drive, so
right.
Didn't feel so bad, but Greg does that all the time.
Wow.
To meet in the district.
And yeah, when we come back from the break, I want to talk a bit more about how that works. How's that travel paid for? And, do you make good money doing this? And is this something that you see, do you want to be that person in Washington?
And when we come back, John, I will tell you how much I make.
Oh, well, perfect. All right, you guys stick with us. More with John Huffman. Be right back.
Still to come.
I was able to buy a home in Salem, South Salem. But, most of my colleagues that live in Klamath Falls or Ontario, they come in and they have to rent an apartment, or they stay in a motel, or, you can imagine it's tough